All right, are you ready for tip number 3 in how to have better sales conversations? Well, I am, and that's what this video is about. Tip number 3 is all about listening without bias. The first segment I really want to keep short because if you don't already know this, then we need to have a conversation. Because the first part is you need to listen. When you're on a sales call, whether it's in person or Zoom or on the phone, doesn't matter, being present and listening is critical. Because why else are you on the call? Are you there to just kind of give them all your stuff and then just say, bye from me? No, of course not. We live in a relationship world. We live in a consultative world. And there's a right way and a not so successful way to have a sales conversation. And this is true in any conversation. So being present and being able to get out of your own way so you can just listen is critical to having a successful call. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about that part. The second part is all about bias. And what I mean by bias is I'm not talking about like the unconscious biases we have around who someone is necessarily, or their ethnicity or their status or whatever, okay, color of their skin, whatever. It's not necessarily that, although it kind of has the same influence. And what I mean by having, listening without bias is when, and I talked a little bit about this in the first tip video, and when we get ready for a sales call, this is why I really say it's important to set a good intention for your sales call. When you're getting ready to have that call, you have all kind of, you, me, whoever's going to be on the phone, we have all these kind of stories and belief systems and expectations, perceptions, you name it. I mean, our brains are crazy. They're very busy and they're very, constantly trying to keep us in survival and be successful and live. And unless we're being deliberate and intentional and really work at how we show up, a lot of those things that are going on in our brain that we're kind of unconscious to will come out in the sales call. They'll come out in tone. They'll come out in the way we ask questions. They'll come out in the way we do or do not listen. And they'll also come out in how we make an offer, how we actually show up and make an offer. And so it's super important to know that we, as the people that are talking to the prospect, we have all that stuff going on. So if you're conscious of that and you're practiced, and you know how to get on a call and have a conversation that doesn't allow that bias to influence your tone or how you're showing up, then it's going to be a lot more open space for that prospect to be vulnerable, to answer the probing questions, which is in tip number 2, the probing questions that you need to ask in order to get them to really see why they're not achieving the goals that they want to achieve and why they're talking to you. And it's also a way for you to keep the space as neutral as possible. So that way, when you're listening, you're not already in your mind preparing, ramping up the next question because of what they said. Because when you, and I'm going to talk about this in the next video around limiting beliefs, if you're really listening, if you're really intently listening, and you're listening at multiple levels, not just the physical act of listening where you just shut up and let them talk, which I always have a challenge with because I'm always wanting to, get in and start doing the free consulting on the sales call. I'll probably always be that way because I'm such a service-minded, nurturing kind of person. But when you get into that conversation and you go into those deeper levels of listening, you'll actually hear them say things that start showing the gaps, start showing why they're not being successful, start showing, like a behavior that they keep repeating that's keeping them stuck. And if you're listening without bias, you pick that stuff up. And when you do that, you're able to actually ask the deeper questions and you're able to help them get more clarity because you're reinforcing what they're saying and pointing out things. And I'm going to talk more about this in the next video. So just to recap, make sure that when you're having these sales conversations, that you listen, the actual act of listening and, having that, not bringing your own stuff into the call, and then showing up as neutral and open as possible, where you're really listening for things they're saying that's going to help you get them clarity and help you serve them that much better. All right, so hopefully that was helpful.